Welcome back to the channel, USA Coins 69, treasure hunters, coin collectors, and curious viewers. Get ready for another exciting journey into the world of rare and valuable coins, the kind that could be hiding in your pocket change or tucked away in a drawer, waiting to surprise you. Today, we're focusing on a coin that's often overlooked, but once you understand its story, you might look at every quarter a little differently. That's right. We're talking about the 1983 Washington quarter dollar with a mint mark. A coin that most people would spend without a second thought, but a rare version of this seemingly ordinary quarter has stunned collectors and brought an incredible price at auction. Before we get into its value, let's rewind the clock to 1983, a year that was full of change and challenges. Ronald Reagan was president. Compact discs were just hitting the market. Michael Jackson's Thriller ruled the charts, and the U.S. economy was recovering from a serious recession. It was also a time when the U.S. Mint was pushing out millions of coins to meet demand for commerce, including the Washington quarter, which had already become a staple in American pockets since its introduction in 1932. Now, here's something that many people don't know: 1983 was a special and problematic year for U.S. coins, especially quarters. Because of budget constraints and evolving minting technology, the U.S. Mint did not issue any official mint sets in 1982 or 1983. That meant that high-quality, uncirculated coins from those years became harder to find in pristine condition. Coin collectors who relied on mint sets to build complete, high-grade collections found themselves with a big gap when it came to these years, especially 1983. The 1983 Washington quarters were minted in Philadelphia and Denver, indicated by the P or D mint mark right next to George Washington's ponytail. But here's where things get exciting: most of the quarters from 1983 were heavily circulated and quickly worn down. Very few survived in mint state condition, making well-preserved examples highly desirable today. But wait, there's more to the story. The 1983 quarter is also famous for rare minting errors, especially double die reverse and struck-through grease varieties. In some cases, the word E pluribus unum on the back of the coin, or parts of the eagle's wings, are faint, missing, or misaligned, turning a regular coin into a collectible worth examining under a magnifying glass. Another reason the 1983 quarter stands out is because of its weak strike and low-quality planchets. During this era, the minting process suffered from cost-cutting and equipment wear, which led to coins that weren't as sharply detailed as in earlier years. Finding a 1983 quarter with full, crisp detail is incredibly rare, and collectors pay top dollar for those few that survive in high quality. And if your 1983 Washington quarter is not just in great shape, but also has a rare mint error, like a double die, clipped planchet, or off-center strike, you may be holding something that belongs in a museum or a high-end auction house. The demand for this coin has skyrocketed in recent years. Coin shows, online auctions, and major grading companies are constantly on the lookout for high-grade 1983 quarters. If you think yours might be valuable, it's worth sending it in to a grading service like PCGS or NGC to get a professional evaluation. A graded coin with a known error can multiply its value many times over. Collectors especially hunt for MS65 or higher grade examples. MS stands for mint state, and the higher the number on the 70-point scale, the better the condition. Very few 1983 quarters reached that grade. Most were simply too used, too fast. And now for the part you've been waiting for: among all the 1983 Washington quarters out there, one extremely rare version, in pristine condition with a visible mint mark and a recognized strike error, sold at auction for an astonishing amount, a value that few would ever expect from a 25-cent coin. That coin brought in a whopping $75,000, yes, you heard that right. $75,000, for a quarter that most people would use to buy a candy bar or feed a parking meter. So don't ignore those quarters in your change. You never know when a small detail, a letter, a shine, a line, might separate a common coin from a collector's dream. Your next grocery store quarter might just be worth a fortune. Today, we are uncovering the hidden power of a coin that has passed through millions of hands, sat quietly in jars, been forgotten in drawers, and even fallen between car seats. A coin that, on the surface, looks just like any other quarter. But what if I told you that this ordinary piece of metal could be worth tens of thousands of dollars, more than enough to buy a luxury car, pay off debt, or even fund a dream vacation. Today, we're talking about the 1991 United States of America Washington quarter dollar with mint mark, a seemingly common coin that, in certain conditions, holds a value that would shock most people. Let's begin with a little context. The Washington quarter has been part of U.S. coinage since 1932, originally created to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The portrait of Washington on the obverse became iconic, representing strength, leadership, and a deep-rooted piece of American heritage. Now let's zoom into the year 1991, a time of big changes and bigger expectations. The Cold War was ending. The internet was beginning to stir. Technology was advancing. And through all of this, quarters were still quietly being minted, exchanged, and spent across the country. The 1991 Washington quarter came out of both the Philadelphia Mint, with a P mint mark, and the Denver Mint, with a D mint mark. At a glance, there's nothing unusual about it, no new designs, no historical anniversaries. Just a solid, everyday coin with George Washington's face, an eagle on the reverse, and the year stamped clearly on the front. But in the world of coin collecting, the real magic is in the details, and for the 1991 quarter, the devil is truly in the tiny, overlooked things. Let's talk about what makes certain 1991 quarters incredibly valuable. First, condition matters. While millions were minted, almost all of them went straight into circulation. That means heavy use, scratches, worn-out edges, and faded features. A truly valuable 1991 quarter is one that has avoided the harsh realities of pocket life. It's been preserved, clean, sharp, untouched, in what collectors call mint state or MS condition. The highest valued ones are often graded MS 67 or higher, and these are extremely rare, but condition alone isn't enough to send a coin into the high-value tier. What really sends value soaring are mint errors, the unexpected quirks in the minting process that transform an everyday quarter into a numismatic treasure. There are some 1991 quarters that were struck on the wrong planchet. That means a quarter struck on a nickel or even a penny blank. Imagine that. A quarter-sized design, but in copper color or smaller size. Strange? Absolutely. Valuable? Without a doubt. Other examples include off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't correctly aligned during minting, causing part of the design to shift or vanish entirely. There are also double die errors, where the lettering or imagery appears slightly duplicated. These happen when the die, the tool used to stamp the coin, accidentally moves during striking. Then you have clipped planchet errors, broad strikes, die cracks, and more, each a unique flaw that only increases the coin's appeal to collectors. But that's not all. One particularly interesting fact about the 1991 quarter is that it was released in a year when the U.S. Mint did not produce traditional uncirculated coin sets. That made it harder to find high-quality examples in the market. So today, locating a sharp, gem-quality 1991 quarter is like finding a needle in a haystack. Another thing collectors look for? Full strike detail, including sharp feathers on the eagle, clear rim edges, bold letters, and a perfectly placed mint mark. Even slight irregularities in any of these features can send a coin into elite status among specialists. So here's the big question: what happens when all these factors come together? A rare error, preserved condition, strong strike, and high demand from collectors. That's where the story gets exciting. One particular 1991 Washington quarter, featuring a prominent mint mark and an exceptional mint error, certified by a top grading company, stunned the coin-collecting community when it crossed the auction block. Its final price, $80,000. Yes, you heard that right. A quarter, worth just 25 cents to the average person, was sold for $80,000 due to its perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector appeal. So next time you come across a 1991 quarter, whether it's in a coin jar, your wallet, or tucked away in your grandmother's change purse, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Check the details. Look closely. You could be holding something rare, valuable, and life-changing. Today, we're diving deep into the world of a coin that millions of people have handled, spent, and even ignored, but hidden within this sea of silver lies a mystery that has shocked collectors across the country. Today's spotlight is on the 1967 United States Washington quarter dollar, a coin that, at first glance, looks no different than any other you might find in your pocket, change jar, or inside an old drawer. But make no mistake, some of these 1967 quarters are incredibly rare, and in one unforgettable case, one of them sold for a mind-blowing $92,000. Let's begin the story of this fascinating coin. The Washington quarter has been a staple in American currency since 1932, introduced to honor the 200th birthday of the nation's first president, George Washington. With his profile stamped on the obverse, this quarter has stood the test of time, becoming one of the most iconic and widely circulated coins in American history. Now, fast forward to 1967, a year of dramatic cultural shifts in the U.S. The Vietnam War, civil rights marches, the rise of rock and roll, and the summer of love dominated headlines. But quietly, something important was happening behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint, something that would leave a permanent mark on numismatic history. During the mid-1960s, the United States was facing a serious coin shortage. The problem was so intense that the government decided to remove silver from most circulating coins, including the quarter. As a result, quarters struck in 1965, 1966, and 1967 were made not from silver, but from a copper-nickel-clad composition, and were designed for mass production. In fact, in 1967 alone, over 1.5 billion quarters were minted, with no mint mark. That's right, 1,967 quarters do not carry a mint mark, because during the coin shortage, the U.S. Mint temporarily suspended mint marks to discourage hoarding and speculation by collectors. So, if no mint marks were used, and so many coins were made, what could possibly make one of these quarters worth tens of thousands of dollars? The answer lies in the flaws, accidents, and miracles of minting. Even though mint marks were excluded that year, many 1967 quarters are far from ordinary. The U.S. Mint, while efficient, isn't immune to errors. And sometimes, those errors create coins that are incredibly rare and highly valuable. Let's talk about some of the key mint errors and variations that make 1967 quarters worth hunting for. First, we have the double die error. This happens when a coin is struck by a die that has been misaligned or etched twice, leading to visible doubling in the letters, numbers, or even parts of Washington's profile. A double die on a 1967 quarter is extremely rare, but if found, it can skyrocket the value instantly. Next, we have off-center strikes, which occur when the coin blank, or planchet, is not properly aligned under the die, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing or shifted. The more dramatic the error, the higher the value. There are also strikes on the wrong planchet, like when a 1967 quarter is accidentally struck on a dime or foreign coin blank. These errors are not only fascinating, they're incredibly collectible. Another rare variation is the missing clad layer error, where the coin appears to have a copper-colored surface on one side due to the absence of the outer nickel layer. These coins look odd, almost like a penny-sized quarter, and they are very sought after by serious collectors. Now let's talk about condition. Out of the 1.5 billion quarters minted in 1967, very few remain in pristine, uncirculated condition. A coin in mint state, that is, with no scratches, perfect shine, and flawless detail, becomes incredibly rare, especially from this high mintage year. Coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to assess quality. A 1967 quarter in MS-67 or MS-68 condition is extremely rare and commands massive prices at auctions. Collectors are willing to pay top dollar for coins that not only survive decades of circulation but look almost brand new. But what happens when you find a 1967 quarter that is both in gem mint state and has a verified, rare mint error? That's when everything changes. In one unforgettable case, a 1967 Washington quarter with a striking off-center error and certified in high mint condition went up for auction, and stunned everyone watching. Collectors competed aggressively to own a coin that represents both a historical moment in U.S. currency and a true minting rarity, and the final sale price, that single 1967 quarter, once worth just 25 cents, sold for a jaw-dropping $92,000, yes, $92,000 US, for a single coin you might have once tossed into a parking meter. Let that sink in. So, what should you do now? Start searching. Look through your old coin jars, check your pocket change, ask your relatives, and visit flea markets and estate sales. Examine every 1967 quarter you come across. Look for those odd features: doubling, off-centers, wrong metal planchets, missing clad layers, and most importantly, preserved, high-grade condition. You never know. The next coin you find could be hiding a rare error that's invisible to the untrained eye, but worth thousands to the right buyer. Today's video might just blow your mind, because what if I told you that one specific quarter, a 25-cent piece from 1973, has fetched nearly $90,000 in the collector's market? Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, stick with me as we uncover the incredible story of the 1973 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that's not only steeped in American history, but also potentially hiding a life-changing surprise. Let's dive into the details of this underappreciated gem. The Washington quarter has been a constant presence in American pockets since 1932. Designed to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, its dignified portrait and eagle reverse have made it one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. history. Fast forward to 1973, a year marked by political turbulence, oil crises, and the end of the Vietnam War. It was also a busy year at the U.S. Mint, with millions of coins being struck to meet growing demand across all states. The quarter minted in 1973 was produced at 3 different facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and you can identify each coin's origin by looking at the mint mark. A D means it came from Denver, an S from San Francisco, and Philadelphia quarters typically carry no mint mark at all. But what makes this coin so intriguing isn't just its origin. It's what went wrong, and occasionally, what went right, during the minting process that created ultra-rare versions of this everyday coin. Most 1973 quarters are made of copper-nickel clad, a cost-effective metal mix used since the U.S. removed silver from circulating quarters in 1965. These quarters were mass-produced, over 525 million in Philadelphia alone, so it's natural to assume they're all common. But here's the twist: among this sea of ordinary coins are extraordinary rarities, mint errors, die varieties, and superb high-grade examples that turn this humble 25-cent piece into a treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars. Let's break it down. First, the mint errors. These include a wide variety of striking mistakes that collectors pay huge premiums for. For example, the off-center strike, where the coin design is misaligned, leaving part of the planchet blank. Depending on how severe the misalignment is, the coin's value can soar. Then there's the elusive double die error. This happens when the die that strikes the coin has a doubled image, leading to clear doubling on letters, numbers, or even parts of George Washington's face. Double dies are a favorite among error collectors because they're so dramatic, and so hard to find. Another exciting error is the wrong planchet strike, when a 1973 quarter is accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination, like a penny or even a foreign coin. These oddball errors are exceptionally rare and are often discovered by accident, but perhaps the most valuable factor of all is condition. A 1973 quarter in everyday circulated condition won't fetch much, maybe 25 cents, or $1 at best. But the real money lies in mint state or proof condition coins that have been professionally graded by PCGS or NGC. In particular, coins graded MS-67 or MS-68 are virtually flawless, with perfect surfaces, bright luster, and sharp details. Out of the hundreds of millions of 1973 quarters, only a tiny handful survive in this condition. These top-grade examples are like fine art to collectors: rare, beautiful, and incredibly valuable. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, especially those with cameo or deep cameo contrast, also fetch impressive prices, particularly if they exhibit no flaws or haze. Now imagine if a 1973 quarter not only had a mint error but also survived in high mint state or proof condition. That combination is the ultimate jackpot in coin collecting, and that brings us to the star of the story. At a high-profile coin auction not long ago, one such 1973 Washington quarter, featuring a well-documented striking error and preserved in exceptionally high grade, stunned the crowd and caught the attention of collectors from around the world. What was once a pocket change coin suddenly became a bidding war centerpiece. And the final hammer price: this single 1973 Washington quarter sold for an eye-watering $89,000, yes, $89,000 US, for a coin you might have tossed in a vending machine or left in your car's cup holder. So the next time you come across a 1973 quarter, whether it's in your wallet, change jar, or at a garage sale, take a closer look. Check for signs of errors. Examine the condition. Because that seemingly ordinary coin might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery hiding in plain sight. That's it for today's incredible coin story. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden value of the 1973 Washington quarter dollar, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Tap the bell icon so you don't miss out on future episodes, where we reveal more coins that could change your life with just one lucky find. Today, we're diving into one of the most surprising and little-known coins that could be sitting quietly in your pocket change right now, the 1982 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it looks like any regular quarter, familiar, ordinary, even forgettable. But don't be fooled by appearances. Because behind that classic American design lies a coin that has stunned experts, shocked collectors, and, yes, made someone rich. You might be wondering, how can a 25-cent coin from the 1980s possibly be worth a fortune? Well, stick around, because this story is about to flip everything you thought you knew about modern coins. Let's rewind to the early 1980s. The United States was dealing with inflation, economic challenges, and rising metal costs. To cut expenses, the U.S. Mint made some unusual decisions in 1982, decisions that accidentally created a perfect storm for rare coin hunters. One of the most important changes was the discontinuation of proof sets for general release that year. That's right, no official U.S. Mint sets were produced in 1982. For collectors, this means high-grade coins from circulation are incredibly hard to find today. No fresh, polished specimens were issued for collectors, so coins minted in 1982 were mostly released directly into circulation. That means almost all 1982 quarters were handled, tossed, pocketed, and spent, over and over again. Now, here's where things get exciting. In 1982, quarters were minted at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins with no mint mark, Denver used a D mint mark, and San Francisco handled special proof coins, though very few were made that year. Among these are rare variations, including differences in the thickness and style of the date, especially the numbers in 1982. These are known as large date and small date varieties, and only the sharpest collectors can spot them. Even more valuable are the errors and transitional coins from this period. Imagine finding a 1982 quarter that was struck on the wrong metal planchet, or one with an off-center strike, or a double die error where part of the design appears twice. These aren't science fiction, they're very real, and extremely sought after. And then there's the high-grade condition factor. Since most of the 1982 quarters were heavily circulated, any coin that survived in pristine, uncirculated, or mint state condition is already rare, but a coin that combines mint state preservation, a mint mark like D or S, and a known minting error. That's the dream. That's the jackpot. Now picture this: a serious collector is attending a national auction. Up for bidding is a rare 1982 D Washington quarter, graded MS 67 by PCGS, an almost flawless coin. It also contains a noticeable striking error and brilliant luster that most coins from this era simply do not have. The bidding starts. Hands go up. The price climbs fast. And then it happens. That simple-looking 1982 Washington quarter, once worth just 25 cents, sells for an absolutely astonishing price, a final hammer bid of exactly $100,000. Yes, you heard it right, 100,000 US dollars, for a coin that could have easily been overlooked in a handful of change. So what's the lesson here? Check your coins, look at the mint marks. Inspect the condition, compare the lettering, study the details, and never ignore a quarter just because it looks common. Because hidden in plain sight, that little silver-colored coin might just be the key to your next big discovery. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another chance to uncover real-life treasure in your own pocket. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy hunting, collectors.